Hey guys, due to how quickly I had to speed up this footage, there's some flashing lights and some very quick motion, so if you're sensitive to that kind of thing, you may want to skip this one. I did try to cut out the worst of it, and I am going to try to put some warnings on where I think it's too bad, but I'll also put the timestamp down below for the screenshots in case you just want to check those out. Love you guys. Hey guys, so we're building a mansion today, and okay, well, I say mansion. It is a big house. It totally is a big house. It doesn't feel as big as it should feel for as long as it took me. But we are building a Second Empire style house, kind of. I say kind of because obviously in The Sims, as much as we can try for certain architecture and stuff, we are working with what we were given, so it's a heavily inspired by the Second Empire architecture style. It was popular in the United States in like the 1870s and 80s. I did my research and then immediately forgot it all because I didn't write it down. And then it's based off of a style from France from like forever ago. And the reason it was so fancy, or yeah, I guess fancy, flashy, is because it's like post-Civil War, when those who were making money off the Civil War were making lots of money off the Civil War and wanted fancy houses. I started this build in January. It is now June 7th at the time of recording this, and I started this build, like the first set of footage I have for this build is January 2nd. So this took me a while. I had to step away from it like quite a few times because I couldn't, like the roofing was really difficult. I lost my way halfway through, not even halfway, like when I started furnishing, I lost my way, which we'll get to later in this video when we start talking about it. I left some of that footage in because I finally decided to style it for like a single sim, because it's the inspiration for this house was a YouTuber named Bernadette Banner. This is not her era exactly. This is not like, again, because of the Sims, like the sim in this house is sort of inspired by but not a replication of, and this house is inspired by but not a replication of. So I want to be very clear, but I'm going to link her channel. She has no idea who I am or anything like that. This is not like, oh, we're buddies or anything. I would love to meet her. She seems fascinating. But realistically, no, I've just been like binge watching her videos. She does historical reconstruction with the hope towards historical accuracy, but as she always says, there is really no such thing as historical accuracy. And anyways, I watched too much of that channel, like binge watched it for like a solid week, and then decided I was going to build a house kind of like this. I had been thinking about it for a while because I thought the roofing looked fun. I know that sounds stupid, but there was a house when I was very little next to my grandparents' house that had sort of a similar, I believe it's called a mansard roof or a mansard roof, where it's kind of slopey and then flat. And I remember when I would visit my grandparents, I thought this roof was fascinating. It wasn't as fancy as this one. It was done in like the 70s shingles kind of thing, but I always thought it was really interesting because I remember my grandpa griping about it and saying he couldn't understand why anyone would put a flat roof on a house in the Pacific Northwest where it rains because of leaks. But for some reason that style of roof has always kind of been like really interesting because the first thing I learned about it was, why would you do it? And I was wondering how to do it in The Sims, and I remember distinctly, I can't remember where I heard it, but I remember distinctly someone, I think it was a Sims YouTuber, it had to have been, who said that you can't do mansard roofs in The Sims. And so I was like, I gotta figure out how to do that. But I cut so much of the roofing out, you guys. I cut probably, I think, easily, I didn't even export like probably 10 hours worth of literally just roofing footage. There's like so many pieces, and I tried to set it up so that there was enough pieces that it didn't conflict too much when you were playing in the attic section. It still does a little bit, and I got around that by kind of styling the attic space as an unfinished area. It's totally playable. You could absolutely use that space up there, but it was annoying me enough that I was like, and it was the last thing I went to go decorate, and I was like, I don't have the patience for this anymore. This ended up being a huge house, and most of the first floor I ended up decorating twice, which you'll see in part of this video. It's super duper sped up because there was just so much footage, and there will be a part 2 because there's just so much in this house. So I started, when I was building the shell of the house, the outside of the house, it was for the single sim based on the fact that I had been binge watching Bernadette Banner's channel, which I, again, highly suggest and will link down below. And then I watched Shazam, which is a good movie. It's a fine movie. I put off watching it for a very long time because I thought it was not going to be a great movie. But it was a fun movie. And I got to thinking how fun it would be to build a family that is full of just like these crazy, interesting kids and like these parents who adopted them and loved them all. And so I started trying to fill this house in a way that would allow me to have lots of kids in this house. And the thing is like, that would be really fun, but that's not how I started this house. And so it just kept conflicting in my head. Like it wasn't, like I wanted a library and I wanted a sunroom, but I also wanted space. I apologize for the flashing around. That's the downside of speeding this up so much. But I wanted all of these fancy rooms, and then I was like, but you're gonna have 6 kids. You need, you know, a homework space and hangout space. You don't need a library. And so like it kept conflicting in my brain. And so you'll see like 2 versions of some of these downstairs rooms before I finally was like, no, I'm going back to the original plan. And the original plan was a single sim who inherited this home and is a sim out of time. She's kind of stuck in this era. Her, you know, great aunt or whatever passed away and left her this house, and so she's fully embraced it. And that sim will be up on the channel in a couple weeks too after we get through this house build. But here you can see I'm still decorating for the family, so it's a little bit more modern. And I left this footage in because I thought it was interesting, because like I ended up decorating the house in a way where I wanted it to look like the sim got the house. It was a little decrepit, and then they've been fixing it up, right? They've been like the basement is unfinished, the attic is partially finished, and then the living spaces she's been putting a lot of effort into decorating in a way that speaks to the era of the house, although it's The Sims. So again, like don't go researching Second Empire houses and then go, Amanda, it's wrong. I'm aware, I totally know. But she's trying to ode to the house and ode to her like favorite era in The Sims. We'll say it's like some sort of Sims Second Empire architecture style. But there's still some modern conveniences. She still has an office with a computer, and she still has, you know, like food for her cats and stuff. She has a laundry room that she's finished downstairs because she wanted laundry, things like that. So here you can see me starting to decorate more. I believe, yeah, this is more for our sim, whose first name is Bernadette, just because I love that name. I think it's really cute. And then she has 2 cats named Julia and Cordelia, who you'll see in that video where we create them. Funnily enough, I had planned for her to have cats. I made the video with her in it, and then I forgot to add the cats, and then I brought her into the house and was like, there's cat stuff everywhere. And then I realized, oh, there's no cat stuff on the 2nd floor. And so I ended up like, it was multifaceted, but the footage just sped up a ton because like I sped it up to where I normally speed it up, and then it was still 2 36-minute videos, and I was like, nobody cares. Like I love long Sims builds, but I also like love long Sims builds while I'm building, and so I was like, nobody's going to listen to me ramble on for 36 minutes. And this house honestly is a lot of repeat furniture and stuff because it was me using the same wall sconces, because we don't have that many like choices and things like that. And I could have busted out CC here, but I was kind of trying to see what I could do with the build with the game. And I think it turned out really cool. I really like this house, but I worked on it fairly consistently, except for the small break where after I had tried to build for the family and I got like kind of frustrated at it because it just wasn't coming out the way I wanted, and I left it for like a week. But other than that, pretty consistently worked on this house bit by bit. There's just so much. There's a lot in this house, and there's a lot of things I don't think anyone's gonna ever notice. Like the top of the cabinets are decorated in the kitchen and stuff like that. Speaking of, you'll see it in a minute. I love that kitchen, and I would hate to cook in that kitchen. It's huge, which means you would have to clean so much. Like so much. This is the sunroom, this little yellow space. I'm jumping around in topic a little bit because I don't know how much longer we have in this room. It's flashing around quite a bit. You'll see it better in the screenshots, but it was meant to be a very cozy reading space, sort of maybe like a, the table could be cleared off and do projects, a very light space to have your morning coffee, whereas the room we saw previous that was in the shades of blue, that was straight up my Downton Abbey library. Obviously it's not based off of Downton Abbey because I believe that room was done more in greens and reds, but I wanted like the space where people come in and have fancy chats over fancy tea about fancy business with fancy land and stuff like that. And also that was kind of the idea of the foyer, if you're, rural American like I am. Here's a little half bath. I started adding radiators in fairly early and then rediscovered them upstairs. You'll see me kind of add them around. I didn't add radiators in the rooms with, the words just escape me. Oh, fireplaces. Oh my goodness, that's not a word you should easily forget. It describes itself. Anyways, I didn't add them all over in places where we had fireplaces or places inside the house where it would be fairly warm. I don't think there's any in the kitchen because if you're cooking in that kitchen all day, it's going to get warm. I did try to add some very traditional features like a closed off floor plan. I'm very proud of the butler's entrance into the kitchen and the back entrance for servants. There's a back hallway for servants and a back staircase. So there's 2 staircases from the first floor to the second floor or the ground floor to the first floor if you're in the UK. And then there's 1 smaller staircase up to the attic and 1 to the basement. And the basement stairs are hidden in the kitchen because the assumption would be the main house would probably never see that when this was originally built. Now Bernadette would obviously use it because her laundry is down there. And there is a finished bath down there because I kind of assumed that when she had the contractor finish the laundry room for her, they probably did the bathroom too. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 full baths and 2 half baths because there's a full bath and a half bath in the attic. I believe the attic is more done than the basement. Also, this house. Okay, so this should probably be for part 2, but it's fine. I'm so excited. You'll hear probably some of the same nonsense from me in part 2. Anyways, this is the first house ever where I've used the mouse hole, which I think came with City Living, but don't quote me on that. Maybe it came with Cats and Dogs. Anyway, there's a mouse hole that you can put on the wall. Or maybe it came with Vampires. I don't know, anyways. And it's the first time I've really, used the cobwebs and then played with them. I've used the cobwebs before, but usually not in houses that I actively play. There's actually a spider that crawls around on those cobwebs. And there's actually a mouse or a rat that comes out of that mouse hole. And I was so excited and also immediately grossed out because I live in the country. I have had mice come in my back door and hang out for a day and freak me out and then leave and then just leave me on guard for 3 weeks. That's not hyperbole. I'm not joking. A mouse actually walked in my back door. My brother saw it and then we spent forever trying to get it out. My house is fairly well sealed, thank goodness, so mice aren't a huge concern unless they just get brazen and walk up my back porch into my house. What is that? But anyways, this is the dining room, and again, you can kind of see the mix of modern and old school simply because we don't have a crazy amount of old school stuff, which is kind of funny to say. A modern sim lives here as much as she likes to believe she's out of time. She's a modern sim. I haven't picked a career for her at the time of this recording. I need to pick a career for her before I do the voiceover for her video. But I absolutely adore this house, and I love this room, and I cannot wait for you guys to see part 2. In fact, I might sit down and just do the voiceover right now because I'm excited. I love this room. This room fought me a little bit, but the dining room turned out pretty cute. And there is a cat bowl in here as well as 2 in the kitchen. There's 2 in the kitchen, and I removed the one in the dining room, and then I put it back because the 2 kitters are not high enough level, and sometimes they just won't eat next to each other, and I don't know what that is, but my dogs have been living together for years, and they sometimes won't eat next to each other, so animals, what are you gonna do? And then here's a little back hall, which I didn't even talk about, but that's that would lead up to the servants' staircase, I believe. Also, look, Vlad! I freaked out mid-screenshots and locked the door for him because he tried to be obnoxious. But I hope you enjoyed this first part of this build. The second one should be up soon, and I'm so excited, and I'll talk to y'all very, very soon.